on the iHeartRadio app.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
Is this the time?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers are in Philadelphia tonight after taking 2 out of 3 from the Yankees in New York City. They start a 3-game series against the Phillies. The Dodgers still have Major League Baseball's best record at 63-37. The 8 World Cup soccer matches at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood had an average attendance of 70,207. That's almost the average attendance for what the Rams and Chargers had for their 8 games at SoFi last season. The Chargers averaged 73,411. The Rams, 73,235. No more NBA games until October. The NBA Summer League in Vegas for rookies and free agents ended on Sunday. The Golden State Warriors, one of the teams pursuing LeBron, won the title. The football program at HBCU Southern University will get a $750,000 guarantee when they play LSU on September 9, 2028. Both schools are in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Let me put my hard hat on, go back outside, and see if these procrastination Crenshaw construction crews have shown up yet. I'm saving space for grace, but if these trucks don't show up soon, well, you already know.
Destination Crenshaw, your time is up. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. KBLA Talk 1580 and Bethesda Temple Church invite residents, churches, businesses, and community leaders along the Crenshaw corridor to join a vitally important community conversation Thursday, July 30th, 6:30 p.m. at Bethesda Temple Church, 4909 Crenshaw Boulevard. For years now, this community has been living with unkept promises and the devastating effects of the unfinished Destination Crenshaw construction project, leaving residents, businesses, and churches to deal with myriad problems, including the loss of parking, restricted access, traffic congestion, and a lack of emergency vehicle access when it matters most. For years now, Procrastination Crenshaw has directly contributed to the loss of customer revenue for local Black-owned businesses and, sadly, has forced the closure of some businesses along this 1.3-mile corridor. For years now, churches have been experiencing decreased attendance due to the elimination of parking, and social service programs for vulnerable fellow citizens have been altogether halted. For years now, residents have watched their quality of life erode, and nothing has been done about it. If they think they can get away with treating Black folk like second-class citizens, they better think again.
You better think about what you're trying to do to me.
This town hall meeting is a reckoning, a public witness, an opportunity for impacted community members to share their experiences for the public record as we prepare to hold those responsible accountable for this enduring nightmare. So please join us Thursday, July 30th, 6:30 p.m. at Bethesda Temple Church, 4909 Crenshaw Boulevard. This town hall meeting is free and open to the public, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley, And as always, we welcome your feedback.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Moving Mountain Mondays. KBLA Talk 1580. Why It Still Rises. The enduring case, lift every voice and sing. We were very young. My father offered my older sister, Santita, my younger brother, Jonathan, and me $20 per verse of the Negro National Anthem if we memorized it. We jumped right on it. $60 each. At the time, I didn't know why. We didn't know why. I later understood that he knew that his children one day could potentially be on a dais with people looking directly into their mouths, and the history of the journey of our people was too important to leave to chance. So, Dad, put a carrot in front of us, $20 per verse. For the rest of my life, and for all of my life, that is the one song that I know every single word to, not something Beyonce did or even Michael Jackson did. James Weldon Johnson did not write a scat, y'all. Da 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 da. No, he didn't write that. It's not a skib up, skib up, skib up, skib out. www. It's a poem. A lamentation of resilience, faith, and hope. Written in 1900, it masterfully transitions from the heavy grief of the past and the harsh realities of the Jim Crow era to a prayerful determination to march towards a more equal, liberated future. It is a ritual from our Seder, our Passover out of slavery. God saw through us, and he saw us through. It is one of the few things that has survived nearing a century and a half of memory. We can't take that lightly. Here's how it came to be. In 1900, a black principal at Jacksonville, Florida, sat down to write words for a school celebration honoring Abraham Lincoln's birthday. His name was James Weldon Johnson. His brother, J. Rosamond Johnson, set the words to music. Neither man could have known that the song they wrote for 500 school children would one day become the anthem of a people, adopted formally by the NAACP in 1919 and sung in black churches, schools, and gatherings ever since. Some will ask, why does a nation need two anthems? It's a fair question. The Star-Spangled Banner tells the story of a flag that survived a night of bombardment, a nation under siege from without. Lift Every Voice and Sing tells a different story, a people who survived a nation's contradictions from within. Its opening lines speak of a dark past and a gloomy past, and its rising chorus speaks of a new day begun. That is not a rejection of American patriotism. That is the fullest expression of it. Patriotism forged not in spite of suffering, but through it. Consider what Johnson was writing into being. Plessy versus Ferguson was 4 years old. Lynching was at its historic peak. The promises of Reconstruction had been broken across the South, and Jim Crow was hardening into law. And yet Johnson did not write a song of despair. He wrote a song of faith, faith that the dark past would yield to the rising sun. That is the same theological architecture you find in Howard Thurman, in the songs my father sang on picket lines, in the cadence of every preacher who ever stood in a black pulpit and dared to promise that Sunday was coming. It is the blues turned into doxology. That is why the anthem has never simply been a song about race. It's a song about American promise, sung by people who had every reason to give up on that promise and chose instead to hold the nation to it. In recent years, this song has become a flashpoint, sung before NFL games and college commitments, drawing objections that it is divisive, that America should have one anthem, one story, but history does not support that reading. The song was written the same year America was still negotiating what freedom would actually mean for the 4 million formerly enslaved people and their children. It did not create a division, it named it, and then it sang past it towards hope. That is the tradition of Samuel DeWitt Proctor, wrote in The Substance of Things Hoped For. Hope is not a naive optimism, but as a disciplined, muscular act of faith exercised precisely when the evidence says to give up. This anthem is hope with muscle in it. It does not deny the chastening rod. It sings straight through it. There's also a simpler reason the song endures: memory. A nation that forgets its history is a nation doomed to repeat its worst chapters. Every time that song is sung, it insists that the story of Reconstruction's betrayal, of Jim Crow, of the long march towards Rock Hill and Selma and Memphis be remembered alongside the story of Fort McHenry. Both are American stories. Neither cancels the other out. So why does it matter in 2026? Because we are once again in a season where certain chapters of American history are being quietly edited out of textbooks, out of federal websites, out of school curricula. In such a season, a song insists on memory. It is not a relic. It is an act of resistance, grounded and built to outlast the noise around it. James Weldon Johnson did not set out to write two anthems for America. He set out to write one true one for a people the country had not yet learned to fully embrace. My father understood that, and that's why he paid us $20 a verse, not for the money, but so the words would live in us before we ever understood why. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. It's Moving Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt? Angela was. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $80,000. Felicia was having health problems, got behind on her taxes, interest and penalties were adding up. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $15,000. Civic Tax Relief is a professional tax negotiation firm that can protect you from the IRS. If you're getting collection letters, call Civic Tax Relief for a free consultation. They will go to work helping you discover all the relief programs you may qualify for free. James owed the IRS $37,000. Civic Tax Relief represented him against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, he did not owe the IRS anything. If you are in trouble with the IRS, call Civic Tax Relief for your free consultation now. 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257. Get a free consultation and real tax relief. Call 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257.
There is no denying that we've always been the conscience of this country. KBLA Talk 1580 is progressive talk radio built for our community, by our community, and with hosts who look like you, live near you, and care about what you care about. 50,000 watts of truth right here in Southern California. KBLA Talk 1580. Listen live on your AM radio dial at 1580 or stream us live on our KBLA1580.com website or on our free KBLA 1580 app.
Unapologetically progressive.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Moving Mountain Mondays, and that puts us firmly on time in the classroom with Ernest Krim, Emmy-nominated producer, public teacher, anti-racist educator, and hate crime victor who uses Black historical narratives to empower and educate through a culturally equitable lens. Brother Krim, welcome forward to your show in the classroom with Ernest Krim.
It's good to be back here with you, brother. Good to see you.
It's good to see you as well. Man, tell me why Americans can't go anywhere on earth at this hour.
Well, you already know, brother, what we've been dealing with for the past year and a half. And every time I say that out loud, it becomes more unbelievable to me that we've survived this long, because sometimes it still feels like we're in the middle of towards the end of January when he first got inaugurated. And I think for me, what this means in this moment is, for one, we're being told that all Americans abroad, especially if you are near Middle Eastern regions, that you have to practice vigilance. So you have to be aware and practice extreme caution and be aware and alert of all the upcoming proceedings in international news, because essentially your safety is at risk. And it seems really, it's very scary to have to say that to people, because you understand as Americans that your safety is at risk, not because of your own fault. It's because of the leadership that we have right now. And I think about this oftentimes, Brother Jackson, from the perspective, of course, of an educator, and also too from the perspective of Black Americans and what this means for us. When I go on road trips, one of the first things I have to do with my family is check where we will be driving through, where we'll be going. And oftentimes I'll check ahead of time to make sure that we can go through certain rest stops in larger cities so that we can feel safe. I'll oftentimes check too to see if the places that we're going through have been sundown towns or are neo sundown towns, in reference to the Green Book from the 1930s that Victor Hugo Green had to publish as someone who was a postal worker. So this brings a feeling that we've had as Black folks throughout our entire history to everyone in this country. So there will be people outside of our community right now that are probably scared and probably are very uncertain. And oftentimes what our history tells us is we've been here before, and unfortunately we told you so.
I made the argument that we need not only a new Green Book in 2026, since this is Jim Crow 2.0, and just like in fishing, when you can go to a lake and you can find out all the hot spots on the lake because of the tracking, because of the data, because of the satellites, because of front radar and side fishing radar, you can find exactly where the fish are. We need a Green Book as Black people to know exactly where we can go on these highways, what towns we can go through, where GPS is taking us, why we should not leave the interstate, all of that stuff right there. But we also need a Black Book. What are the restaurants that cook our food? What are the new restaurants along the route and the new opportunities along the route that we as a people can explore? I agree with you that, the circumstances of what's taking place in this country right now almost require a recast, a re-reflection, if you will, of what first Jim Crow looked like that led to these circumstances. And I might add, it is during first Jim Crow that the Negro National Anthem was written. That is the context within which I opined today on the importance and the significance of this song. Now, I find it somewhat shameful, in light of my opening question to you, Dr. Krim, that Black folks are being discouraged from going to the Caribbean. That we are being discouraged. Americans are being discouraged from going to the Caribbean. Americans are being discouraged from going to certain African countries. Well, I too am American. And one of the geniuses of my dad, of the late Jesse Jackson, was this. When America said don't go, that's when he went to meet with Castro and understood the Afro-Caribbeans. When America said don't go, Dad went to Haiti and met Jean-Bertrand Aristide. When F.W. de Klerk said don't go, Dad went to South Africa to demand the release of Nelson Mandela. And so Black people have an entree into the third world and into the struggling and, if you will, those post-colonial revolutionary communities that have been fighting various forms of colonialism for about as long as we've been fighting for it here in our own country, because the slave trade is obviously dropping people off in the Caribbean. It's dropping people off in South America. They didn't just all end up in Jamestown, Virginia. Some of the ships navigated to Cuba. So we have Afro-Cubans, we have Afro-Colombians, we have Afro-Venezuelans. They understand the struggle of our people. Dr. Krim, where else in the world can we not go because Donald Trump has said we can't go?
From a psychological perspective, to me, brother, this feels like a willingness and ability to heighten fear amongst all of us as Americans, because when we are more isolated, we aren't able to build the unity and reach across the line or reach out to other folks in our times of need. especially as Black folks throughout our history, we have seen that our struggles have always been linked to international struggles, to always understand and see that other people across the world are dealing with something similar to us. When Malcolm X spoke about what we dealt with back in the 50s and 60s, he was able to draw those links to the fight against imperialism in West Africa at the time. And if we are to live under this fascist state with this leader for, the next 2.5, 3 years or so, we have to be able to think beyond our existence now. And the more that we shelter ourselves mentally and literally, I think the worse off that we'll be in this moment.
There are 23 countries around the nation, around the world, that America is discouraging people from going. Actually, they're discouraging, in my opinion, white folks from not visiting. Among them, 11 African countries: Burkina Faso, Central African Republic, that's the Congo, Chad, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Libya, Mali, Niger, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, and Uganda. The complete list designated as level 4 countries include Afghanistan, Belarus, Burkina Faso, Burma, Central African Republic, Chad, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Haiti, Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Libya, Mali, Niger, North Korea, Russia, Somalia, South Sudan, Syria, Uganda, Ukraine, and Yemen. And there is an updated list that includes countries like Borno, Jigawa, Kogi, Kwara, Niger, Plateau, Taraba, Yobe, and Northern Adamawa. And in South America and the Southeast, the advisory applies to Abia, Anambra, Bayelsa, Delta, Enugu, Imo, and Rivers State, excluding Port Harcourt. Now, what I find somewhat fascinating is you and I cannot go to these countries. We are discouraged from going to these countries because of the high threat of terrorism, but it's not stopping Jared Kushner and Mr. Witkoff from going to these countries seeking critical mineral deals that are not brought to the attention of the American people. How do you feel about that? That we can't go, but some American businessmen closely tied to the Trump administration can go anywhere on earth they choose.
It reveals the hypocrisy of what we've experienced in this country since the beginning. And I also think of it in terms of, if we can continue to craft this anti-Black or this anti-Asian perspective of how we view folks around the world, it's just really eerie as you continue to name off the list too. And we understand where these places are, because if you can create a narrative that makes it appear as if those places are dangerous, then of course you would also feel on the other side, the inverse of that is you would have assumed that they are dangerous when they want to come here. And then with that being said, that creates the environment for the murders, the violence we have seen from ICE officers. It seems as if every day I wake up and I see another story about somebody dying while they were detained, or somebody being killed, or I get a text from my immediate community about ICE being in the area. You know, it's the saying, as above, so below. So while they're telling us to be scared of these places, like you said, they are trying to, and in the process of continuing to loot what they would label as the third world, but as we know as the motherland, as the richest place on this planet.
And the negotiation has to be, I mean, it's just as plain as the nose in the middle of my face. If you want off of this list, you need to do a deal. You need to do a deal that's not brought to the attention of the American people. And then a recommendation comes forth that since we are doing a deal with you, you are no longer seen as in a country that opposes really the spread of American imperialism. Deals for Elon Musk, deal for Kushner and Witkoff, deals for the president's friends at the expense of liberation movements in these countries. Only, by the way, destabilizing democracies in these countries, because when the economic elite in these countries enter into a deal to benefit themselves, it usually comes at the expense of education, healthcare, housing, roads, vaccinations of poor people who live in these countries, largely descendants of the Middle Passage and the Great Nadir that impacted Africans all over the country and all over the world.
You know, for me as an educator, a couple of things that come to mind as we continue to experience this is, one, we are getting a crash course in civics time and time again. Unfortunately, we're getting a crash course in civics. And as we stand here in the middle of July. There are educators who are preparing to have to go back to work in a little under a month or a month or so, and they're going to have to figure out ways to explain this. But also, too, beyond the aspect of us learning about civics in real time, we have to make sure that we are understanding the historical patterns that we see. When we talked about just the travel warnings that we have had to adhere to and still have to adhere to, as we time and time again hear about Black bodies hanging and being ruled as suicides across the country as we speak, we have to always remember that we have existed in this country enslaved and Jim Crow more than we have existed free. So that means to me that we have to understand those patterns and remember, I saw somebody post this recently, just as much as we have people alive today who have persevered through that era, who are Black, we have those who are white who also existed in that era and were the ones on the other side putting up the signs. So as we see that happen internationally, we have to remember that that same behavior, that same mentality holds place in our communities, in our hoods, in Black neighborhoods all across America.
Ernest, we have about 4 minutes before we come forward, and I do have a generational question to ask you, and we can talk about more when we do come forward after the break. There is a great fissure that's taking place between democratic socialists and traditional Democrats. And it is happening not only in the Congress of the United States, it's happening in state legislatures, and it's happening all around our country as this new generation of Americans who are entering the political process. They're entering the primaries, multi-candidate fields. They are being very successful. But of course, they're drawing the ire of the traditional Democratic Party and its establishment. This wing of the party, known as the AOC, Bernie Sanders, Mamdani wing of the party, seems to be making tremendous inroads politically during this primary season. I read an article just before the show of Congressman Stephen Cohen out of the 9th Congressional District of Tennessee, who, as a result of the Robinson versus Clay decision, will not seek re-election. But it's also the race that Justin Pearson is running in. And I pray and hope that he is successful in his campaign for the Democratic nomination and ultimately for the party. But I am concerned because in the same article, it said now, as a result of Robinson versus Clay, the district is leaning heavily Republican because of the diminishment of African-American voters in the 9th Congressional District. Ernest, your thoughts about the division that is taking place in the Democratic Party?
You know, I think that the division that's taking place is absurd to me in this moment when we think about the fact that we've lost the last election, when we see the success from, mayors across the country who may or may not label themselves as plainly as Mamdani as Democratic Socialists, but we see that there's been an increased effort to redistribute tax money to services and find ways to help kids who are maybe involved in these teen takeovers, to give them jobs and find employment and things like that. In America, I think that oftentimes we are taught to figure out if we agree or disagree with something based on the label of something as opposed to what it actually entails. And I think that if the Democrats want to survive and be successful moving forward, they have to understand that the youth, the millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha coming up to vote, they are screaming loud and clear that we are a part of the first generations where we are not making more money than our parents. We are not successful in the traditional American sense as our parents. Literacy rates are going down, as you can see. And we saw an article that was published a couple of weeks ago that went viral that talked about that this is the end of literacy for some people, right? So we've seen these systems fail us, and many of us before we've reached 30, reached 40, and we want something different. And for that to work, there has to be some unity amongst the party. And I think that only when that happens, when the Democrats be successful moving forward.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Moving Mountain Mondays. We are in the classroom with Ernest Krim. He's a creator for content for companies such as HBO, Hulu, Disney, Paramount, and the History Channel. He's also the CEO of Krim's Cultural Consulting, LLC. An inspirational speaker, has spoken at Harvard and the University of Chicago. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward with Ernest Krim.
It's It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. The NAACP National Convention is underway in Chicago. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker used his keynote address to focus on voting access, equal representation, and protecting democratic participation.
And to eliminate race-based discrimination in this country.
This year's theme is We the People. The convention runs through Wednesday. A Mississippi police sergeant is facing scrutiny over allegations he made a racist remark toward a black co-worker days before a deadly Walmart shooting. Officer Dexter Smith later resigned, saying the department failed to address his complaint. Sergeant Hunter Foster remains on leave as the shooting investigation continues. And the WNBA All-Star Game returns to Chicago Saturday at the United Center. Events leading up to the game will be held at the Obama Presidential Center, including Media Day and Junior WNBA Day. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
Is this the Tiger?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers are in Philadelphia tonight after taking 2 out of 3 from the Yankees in New York City. They start a 3-game series against the Phillies. The Dodgers still have Major League Baseball's best record at 63-37. The 8 World Cup soccer matches at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood had an average attendance of 70,207. That's almost the average attendance for what the Rams and Chargers had for their 8 games at SoFi last season. The Chargers averaged 73,411, the Rams 73,235. No more NBA games until October. The NBA Summer League in Vegas for rookies and free agents ended on Sunday. The Golden State Warriors, one of the teams pursuing LeBron, won the title. The football program at HBCU Southern University will get a $750,000 guarantee when they play LSU on September 9, 2028. Both schools are in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Someone had a birthday.
Yep, 50. Can't believe it.
50 years of wisdom.
Great segue. We have a health reminder from the CDC.
Pneumococcal vaccination is recommended for adults 50 or older. Says here, we're over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50.
I don't love those odds.
Same. Look what I found. Pfizer's Prevnar 20 is proven to help protect adults against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease in just 1 dose, and millions have already gotten it.
Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you have a severe allergy to its ingredients. A weakened immune system may lower your response. Common side effects include injection site pain and swelling, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138. Visit Prevnar20.com or talk to your doctor or pharmacist.
I'm on Prevnar20.com now, scheduling my appointment.
Good idea. And happy 50th.
Going to a World Cup match in LA this summer? Ditch the parking stress and ride Metro. With direct service from across LA County, it's the easy way to get there for just $1.75 each way. Don't be anxious or confused about AI. Take control of your career when you get the skills to tackle real business problems and design specialized solutions. HR Dive reported that entry-level talent with applied AI credentials can receive up to a 25% salary boost. But where do you find training that you can trust? Future-proof your career and deliver more value with Humans Lead the Way AI. Their hybrid learning courses use practical definitions, real-world examples, and strategic insights to help you and your team understand AI with confidence. No magic, no hacks, no shortcuts. Just practical knowledge that helps you use AI more successfully. Don't wait. AI can never replace people who know how to use it well. Register for courses today at humansleadtheway.com. That's humansleadtheway.com.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Wally, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're in the classroom with Ernest Krim on Moving Mountain Monday. Ernest, welcome forward to the show.
Thanks again for having me, brother.
It's a pleasure to have you, Ernest. It always is. Ernest, a quick question for you, and I'm reflecting upon it because of the commercial that I heard right here at KBLA about the NAACP's annual conference in the city of Chicago. I'm not from your generation. I'm 61 years old, and I think just about every generation can be separated by about 4 years. That constitutes a generation. The thinking of a freshman coming into college from someone who's just graduating and entering the world, the potential world of opportunity are light years of different realities. And so I respect the nature of your youth and its importance and significance. How does your generation view historically Black civil rights and human rights organizations?
Oh, that's an awesome question. Awesome question, especially as we continue to traverse through this experience of American racism and the so-called white supremacy and try to figure out ways to navigate it. I would say by and large, we feel as though they are out of touch. We don't often see the direct concern for what we are screaming and crying for in our immediate communities. And I can say for an organization like the NAACP, a lot of that would often be contingent upon how active they are in your city, your town, your county. The places that I've lived in throughout my life, I've seen some very active chapters who do a lot of amazing work. And I've seen some chapters who, quite frankly, don't do as much as I think. I think that, for one, it's important for our kids in any generation to understand why an organization like that was created, the amazing work they've done, but also too some of the flaws and critiques, because no organization, nobody is perfect. For an organization like them, just using them as an example, to be around for so long and to still exist means something. But I think where we are now, especially because our kids aren't even being taught correctly about why they matter and why they're here, there can be a disconnect. And because they might not have as many youth leaders involved, a lot of smaller organizations that are on the grounds that live in the community come to power and are created to address those needs. But I would say by and large, the view is similar to how we might view the Democratic Party as a whole in our generation. We feel as though they are mostly out of touch, and it can feel as though they are a relic of the periods that we have studied in class, but not a staple of our communities now moving forward.
I want to ask you the question, and offer critique. Is that fair? I mean, is that really fair? And the reason I say that, not to criticize your thinking, but for example, At this critical hour, I can't think of an organization, and I'll use the NAACP as an example, that is doing more in terms of the resources that they have now allocated for the purposes of voter registration and voter engagement, nearly $20 million. The first time the organization has ever dropped, if you will, that kind of money into nonpartisan voter activity in light of Robinson versus Scalise, that in my opinion makes them one of the most relevant historic organizations in the modern era as a result of the work that they are about to undertake. Now, I juxtapose that against whether or not Black organizations, many of which, like the National Action Network, I know my father put his dying breath into the Rainbow Coalition and its work. I know that Bernice King is doing an extraordinary job at the King Center, and Mark Morial at the Urban League. I've seen him on the campaign trail. I mean, working up a sweat, trying to inspire and encourage our people to vote. This is not a critique or criticism of them, but I'm wondering if some of this is marketing. And by that, I mean, there's not a single day that I don't turn on the television and I hear these commercials that almost bring me to tears about some struggling pet somewhere that was abandoned, that whose soul matters, with this language that is so compelling that it almost brings me to tears. And then I wake up from the slumber and I say, what about a Negro? Wait a minute. What about the homeless? What about the immigrant? What about, and that's not that these organizations don't take positions or haven't been advocating strong advocacy in the human rights space. It's just that the kind of money to save a pet isn't available to us on the marketing side. If I woke up every day and heard that the NAACP was fighting for Nolan Wells, and they are, if I heard every day that the NAACP is in court fighting to preserve majority minority districts, I would be joining the organization as quickly as I could, and they are. If I heard every day that they were fighting for the 300,000 Black women who lost their jobs in the first week of the Trump administration, I would be supportive. And the NAACP is, and so is the Urban League, and so is the Rainbow Coalition. Is some of this a function of marketing, Ernest?
Oh, for sure. And I want to be clear and separate what I think that my generation feels versus what I feel. And again, with the previous question, a lot of it is what I feel is a disconnect in terms of how we are actually taught about the history of this organization and where they stand today. I know people in the NAACP, the national chapter, local chapters, and like you said, they do amazing work, and they're doing amazing work right now. I think that, like you said, though, there's an issue with marketing, because there can be an issue of who that is prominent in our generation can be attached to that organization to bring relevance. I don't want to say relevance because they're very relevant, but to bring appeal to the younger generation, you know? And I think that's the issue with any organization that's been around for, more than 100 years or so. That's something we talk about with the Black church, right? When we see church attendance going down, it doesn't mean that the church isn't impactful, is it irrelevant? It just means that we have to find a way to build that bridge. And maybe sometimes some of the messaging, some of the marketing might miss our children. But I think that what's important here too is, as an educator, for me, I make sure that my actual kids, and my students, of course, too, but my actual kids understand and understood what the NAACP is and what it stands for, because I want them to understand too, when we even close that with colored people, why that was said, why that's not something we say now, but why it's still important for that organization to have that naming. Because understand, we're talking 1908, August, right? The summertime, where we are now, Springfield Race Riot. That's where this emerges from. And the environment that we are in right now, presently, is ripe for that type of activism. But I think oftentimes, because we are inundated with so much information, right? So many reels, so many TikToks, that we don't truthfully understand what these organizations might be doing behind the scenes, because like you said, it's not being fed or marketed to us in that manner. And that's something that we all have to do, but also understand too, that the NAACP is not just a larger organization. Each state has a head, cities, counties. So I would encourage everybody that's listening now to be sure that they are in tune with their local chapter and leadership and try their best to get involved too.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. We're in the classroom on Moving Mountain Monday with Ernest Krim. I'm grateful for his leadership, his support, and bringing the generational perspective on all questions and all issues that matter. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward with Ernest Krim.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
You deserve a treat, a $10 bill credit treat. If you get an LADWP paper bill but go online to pay it, stop! Break up with your mailbox. It's time to go paperless. With paperless billing, bill reminders come straight to your inbox. You can access 7 years of past bills in your online account, and you don't have to deal with paper clutter piling up. It's a win for you, your time, and the environment. $10 bill credit for new LADWP paperless billing signups. LADWP.com/paperless.
The Sickle Cell Community Consortium Warrior Convention, sponsored in part by Agios and Pfizer, is July 22nd through 26th. Sickle cell education, entertainment, and family fun. Free hotel scholarships are available. Register now at sicklecellconvention.org.
Listen up, KBLA delegation. We have something you need to hear. Right now, you may qualify for low-cost home internet. We're not talking about a catch. This is real. Many internet service providers offer low-cost internet plans if anyone in your household is enrolled in CalFresh, Medi-Cal, SSI, or is income eligible. There are a lot of families in our community who deserve to be connected. Here's all you do. Call 844-461-7893. That's the Get Connected call center. Real people ready to help you enroll today. Or go online to internetforallnow.org to find a provider near you. You may also qualify for a low-cost computer through Human IT. Connectivity is not a luxury. In 2026, it's a necessity, and you deserve access just like everybody else. Call 844-461-7893. That's 844-461-7893. KBLA's got you. If you missed any of this, you can always go to our website at KBLA1580.com. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 in partnership with the California Emerging Technology Fund, CETF.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. 10 Toes In serves as a mentorship and domestic violence prevention program. They support, educate, and empower couples during and after incarceration. They assist male returning citizens to re-enter society successfully and to help them maintain a healthy relationship with their romantic partner. They offer a mentorship support group for formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In teaches its Intimate Relationships 101 curriculum at male prisons throughout the state of California. They host sister support group meetings for women who are intimately involved with incarcerated and formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. To access their services or make a donation, please visit them online at 10toesin.org or find them on Facebook or Instagram. They are healing lives through relationships. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Attention. Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe $10, $20, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-324-3030. That's 800-324-3030. Again, that's 800-324-3030.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Moving Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our regular contributor, Ernest Krim, is here with us in the classroom with Ernest Krim. Ernest, welcome forward to the show.
Thanks again. It's been a pleasure to be with you again.
Brother, I'm deeply moved by your thoughts about the importance of these organizations, and it could also be just marketing. But let me dissect something. Let me unpack something here for a moment and get your further thoughts. I'm assuming, and this may be a big assumption, that $20 million for voter registration that showed up for a campaign for the NAACP to engage Black voters is not from their membership drive. $30 of membership. I don't believe that. I don't believe that an organization that if it survives off of membership drives, that it has $20 million to allocate to voter engagement and voter participation. So the marketing shows up, the money shows up to get the Black vote out for November. And then after November, organizationally, the NAACP, including its tax status, doesn't allow it to engage politics in ways that the very people that it helped elect can serve. So I'm questioning here some of the motives. Now, if the $20 million showed up on Black youth unemployment or stopping the proliferation of guns, another $20 million for that, and what the NAACP or other organizations are going to do something about that, or $20 million more dollars, and I hope the NAACP and those that are listening are cheering for me right now, because I've already told your supporters and the benefactors that they need to prepare to ante up some more $20 million pieces here. We're at $60 million so far. Another $20 million to help and strengthen, HBCUs, colleges and universities. Another $20 million to address health disparities and the health crisis in the Black community, sponsored by the NAACP. That's $120 million. If the NAACP could tell those stories with that money, they would be as big as the wonderful commercials that come on television talking about saving a dog that has been left astray and no one's paying attention to the dog that has been sitting on the corner and everybody's walked over the dog. In the meantime, we keep walking over these Negroes, man. Talk to me.
Hey, you spent a lot of money for them. I hope they ready.
I hope I just raised a lot of money for them.
Well, yeah, there we go. What I was thinking too, for one, I want folks to know, right? So we're talking about the largest and most geographically widespread civil rights organization in the U.S. still, 100 and some odd years later, right? We're talking 2,200, more than 2,200 local chapters across the country. I think one of the issues, as you were talking, because we live in a microwave era, right? Immediate gratification era. A lot of times our messaging has to adapt with how the culture adapts to, right? For most of the existence of the NAACP, they didn't have that issue, right? This is something from the last 10, 15 years or so. it's the same thing with the Democrats, because we know there are Democratic members who are doing the job, doing the work, but oftentimes what we see from politics becomes something that is it's not immediate. It takes time to see the results of the legislation that you pass. But when we see somebody starving on the street, right, and then we say, well, what is fill in the blank doing? They're not doing something about this. We feel as though it's because this entity has not done the work. When in fact, when we even talk about civil rights, we're talking about protecting voting rights, for example, something that people still feel a disconnect with, that hopefully through this term of presidency, we understand just how important it is. But I think something that could be very powerful too is if they see the power of even linking with some of the organizations that have come up. You think about some of the organizations that have come up just within the last 6 years since George Floyd's murder. There are some powerful entities that are Gen Z and millennial led that I think would benefit greatly from that partnership right there. Because again, we talk about history. We can't move forward unless we have that link to the past. And that's Sankofa. There's something that we can learn, not just something, we can learn immensely from the NAACP, and they can learn, of course, from our generation as well.
And this is applicable to all of the civil rights organizations, the historic civil rights organizations. So grateful for your thinking on that, Ernest. Ernest, we have about 4 minutes before we come forward. What is your word of hope on this Moving Mountain Monday?
Wow. It gets more difficult each week, brother, but I'm gonna pull the rabbit out there.
I gave you just enough time to deliver the Gettysburg Address, my brother. 3.5 minutes. That's all Lincoln had.
You know, I think that the word of hope for this week rests upon where we landed with the NAACP. Oftentimes when I talk to people, the question is, what do we do in this moment? What can we do? And I like to break these things down like I'm a math teacher, the lowest common denominator. And when people say, how do we get organized in this moment? The best way is to join an organization. I don't have all the answers to all the problems. In fact, I like to focus on the thing I know best, and that's educating the youth and organizing, mobilizing around using that for strategy, right? But I know one thing for certain. We cannot solve anything without being in community. These conversations we have each week are where we plant the seeds, and where you all are in LA or the Chicago area or New York, across the country. Now the marching orders is like, are you a part of an organization? Sometimes we'll ridicule and critique these legacy organizations, or just people in general on the front lines, without saying, well, can I join and add my input, or can I create something? So I'm challenging everybody out there. You should definitely be a part of at least one, but that's bare minimum, because for everything that you feel passionate about, whether it be houselessness, whether it be about voting rights, whether it be about education, you can join an organization that does that. The NAACP, various chapters, they do all of that work, but we can join each one. Be especially active in one, and then in the other ones, you need to give your money. Because none of this work can be done in this society unless we have the resources. So that's my call to action and word of hope, because I want us to understand in America, we learn about all the great individuals that did great work, and we should. But let's remember that none of those individuals did it by themselves. We understand that what Jesse Jackson was doing, we talk about Rainbow Push, right? When we talk about Dr. King, we understand the various organizations, the SCLC. We talk about young brothers like Fred Hampton, the Black Panthers, for example, right? So we have to be a part of something. To get organized, you must join an organization, y'all. The organs of the body all function for the purpose of keeping the human body alive, and that's what we got to do.
I appreciate that, Ernest. You preaching today, brother. Let me tell you something. If you have not joined the Transformative Justice Coalition, TJ Coalition, donate on their website now. If you haven't joined, be quiet and stop complaining. During the NAACP's convention, join the organization. Go to their website, give your $25 or $30 and become a member. Become a life member, but certainly become an annual member. I understand it to be $30. Contribute to the King Center. Give. Don't just be sitting back complaining. Give to the Urban League. Go to the Urban League's website and join their organization. Support KBLA Talk 1580. Come to our website, download the app, share this program, put us under your Thanksgiving and your Christmas tree. Join the Urban League. Join the Rainbow Push Coalition. Join the National Action Network. Stop complaining about what you don't have. Use what you got. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. We've been in the classroom with Ernest Krim. More on KBLA Talk 1580 on Moving Mountain Monday when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. The NAACP National Convention is underway in Chicago. Illinois Governor J.P. Pritzker used his keynote address to focus on voting access, equal representation, and protecting democratic participation.
And to eliminate race-based discrimination in this country.
This year's theme is We the People. The convention runs through Wednesday. A Mississippi police sergeant is facing scrutiny over allegations he made a racist remark toward a black co-worker days before a deadly Walmart shooting. Officer Dexter Smith later resigned, saying the department failed to address his complaint. Sergeant Hunter Foster remains on leave as the shooting investigation continues. And the WNBA All-Star Game returns to Chicago Saturday at the United Center. Events leading up to the game will be held at the Obama Presidential Center, including Media Day and Junior WNBA Day. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers are in Philadelphia tonight after taking 2 out of 3 from the Yankees in New York City. They start a 3-game series against the Phillies. The Dodgers still have Major League Baseball's best record at 63-37. The 8 World Cup soccer matches at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood had an average attendance of 70,207. That's almost the average attendance for what the Rams and Chargers had for their 8 games at SoFi last season. The Chargers averaged 73,411. The Rams, 73,235. No more NBA games until October. The NBA Summer League in Vegas for rookies and free agents ended on Sunday. The Golden State Warriors, one of the teams pursuing LeBron, won the title. The football program at HBCU Southern University will get a $750,000 guarantee when they play LSU on September 9, 2028. Both schools are in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Let me put my hard hat on, go back outside, and see if these procrastination Crenshaw construction crews have shown up yet. I'm saving space for grace, but if these trucks don't show up soon, well, you already know. Destination Crenshaw, your time is up. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. KBLA Talk 1580 and Bethesda Temple Church invite residents, churches, businesses, and community leaders along the Crenshaw corridor to join a vitally important community conversation Thursday, July 30th, 6:30 p.m. at Bethesda Temple Church, 4909 Crenshaw Boulevard. For years now, this community has been living with unkept promises and the devastating effects of the unfinished Destination Crenshaw construction project, leaving residents, businesses, and churches to deal with myriad problems, including the loss of parking, restricted access, traffic congestion, and a lack of emergency vehicle access when it matters most. For years now, Procrastination Crenshaw has directly contributed to the loss of customer revenue for local Black-owned businesses and, sadly, has forced the closure of some businesses along this 1.3-mile corridor. For years now, churches have been experiencing decreased attendance due to the elimination of parking, and social service programs for vulnerable fellow citizens have been altogether halted. For years now, residents have watched their quality of life erode, and nothing has been done about it. If they think they can get away with treating Black folk like second-class citizens, they better think again.
You better think about what you're trying to do to me.
This town hall meeting is a reckoning, a public witness, an opportunity for impacted community members to share their experiences for the public record as we prepare to hold those responsible accountable for this enduring nightmare. So please join us Thursday, July 30th, 6:30 p.m. at Bethesda Temple Church, 4909 Crenshaw Boulevard. This town hall meeting is free and open to the public, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
Listen to me.
Why it still rises. Your voice and sing. In the year 1900, a black principal in Jacksonville, Florida, sat down to write words for a school celebration honoring Abraham Lincoln's birthday. His name was James Weldon Johnson. The younger brother, J. Rosamond Johnson, set those words to music. Either man could have known that the song they wrote for 500 school children would become within 2 decades the anthem of a people, adopted formally by the NAACP in 1919 and sung in black churches, schools, and gatherings for well over a century. The song, Lift Every Voice and Sing, the Negro National Anthem. Here's how it came to be. In 1900, a black principal in Jacksonville, Florida, sat down to write the words of a celebration honoring Lincoln. Some will ask, why does the nation have 2 anthems? It's a fair question. The Star-Spangled Banner tells the story of a flag that survived the night of bombardment, a nation under siege from without. Lift Every Voice and Sing tells a different story, a people who survived a nation's contradictions from within. Its opening lines speak of a dark past and a gloomy past, and its rising chorus speaks of a new day begun. This is not a rejection of American patriotism. That is the fullest expression of it. Patriotism forged in spite of suffering, but through it. Consider what Johnson was writing into being. Plessy versus Ferguson from 1896 was just 4 years old. Lynching was at its historic peak. The promises of Reconstruction had been broken across the South, and Jim Crow was hardening into law, just like Project 2025 is hardening into law. And yet Johnson did not write a song of despair. He wrote a song of faith, faith that the dark past would yield to the rising sun. That is the same theological architecture you will find in Howard Thurman, in the songs of my fathers that he sang on picket lines, in the cadence of every preacher who ever stood in a black pulpit and dared to promise that Sunday was a-comin'. It turned the blues into doxology. This is why the anthem has never simply been about race. It's a song about the American promise itself, sung by people who had every reason to give up on that promise and chose instead to hold the nation to it. In recent years, this song has become a flashpoint, sung before NFL games and college commencements, drawing objections that it is divisive, that America should have only one anthem and one story, but history does not support that reading. The song was written the same year America was still negotiating what freedom would actually mean for 4 million formerly enslaved people and their children. It did not create the division, it named it, and then it sang past it toward hope. That is the tradition of Samuel DeWitt Proctor. He wrote about it in The Substance of Things Hoped For. Hope is not naive optimism, but as a disciplined, muscular act of faith exercised precisely when the evidence says that we should give up. This anthem is hope with a muscle in it. It does not deny the chastening rod, it sings straight through it. There's also a simpler reason the song endures, and that's because of memory. A nation that forgets its full history is a nation doomed to repeat the worst chapters. Every time that song is sung, it insists that the story of Reconstruction, betrayal of Jim Crow, of the long march towards Rock Hill and Selma and Memphis be remembered alongside the story of Fort McHenry. Both are American stories, neither cancels out the other. So why does it matter in 2026? Because we are once again in a season where certain chapters of American history are being quietly edited out of textbooks, out of federal websites, out of school curricula. In such a season, a song that insists on memory is not a relic. It is an act of resistance, grounded, built to outlast the noise around it. And I have to add this point just before we come forward, and that's this. Anytime your favorite pop star can come out with a new album and your child can memorize every word of the album, I still know every word of Thriller, every word of When Doves Cry, Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind, and Fire, you name it, I know all of the lyrics. But for any of our children to not know the 3 verses of the Negro national anthem is deeply troubling. James Weldon Johnson did not write 2 anthems for America. He set out to write one true one for a people the country had not yet learned to fully embrace. My father understood that. That's why he paid each of us $20 a verse, $60. A lot of money back in the day. I'm 61 years old, but not for the money, but so the words would live in us before we ever understood why. And whenever we're on a program or a dais or at a Black event or any other event in the country with people staring us right in our mouths, we know the words. Let me encourage you to encourage your children to do the same. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, we're Moving Mountain Mondays with Reverend Terry Hord Owens in just a moment.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580. Your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt? Angela was. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $80,000. Felicia was having health problems, got behind on her taxes, interest and penalties were adding up. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $15,000. Civic Tax Relief is a professional tax negotiation firm that can protect you from the IRS. If you're getting collection letters, call Civic Tax Relief for a free consultation. They will go to work helping you discover all the relief programs you may qualify for free. James owed the IRS $37,000. Civic Tax Relief represented him against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, he did not owe the IRS anything. If you are in trouble with the IRS, call Civic Tax Relief for your free consultation now. 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257. Get a free consultation and real tax relief. Call 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257.
Don't be anxious or confused about AI. Take control of your career when you get the skills to tackle real business problems and design specialized solutions. HR Dive reported that entry-level talent with applied AI credentials can receive up to a 25% salary boost. But where do you find training that you can trust? Future-proof your career and deliver more value with Humans Lead the Way AI. Their hybrid learning courses use practical definitions, real-world examples, and strategic insights to help you and your team understand AI with confidence. No magic, no hacks, no shortcuts. Just practical knowledge that helps you use AI more successfully. Don't wait. AI can never replace people who know how to use it well. Register for courses today at humansleadtheway.com. That's humansleadtheway.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk
Talk 1580. Again, Jackson Jr. And I'm so glad that you're joining us here on our program. Our regular contributor, Reverend Terry Hord Owens, is our very special guest in this hour. This past weekend, Reverend Owens, I had the opportunity to speak at the Rock Hill NAACP event in Rock Hill, South Carolina, at the Freedom Fund event. Timing of it, about the same time, obviously, as the National Convention of the NAACP, but Bishop Porterfield in Rock Hill, South Carolina, is doing extraordinary job building a community and bringing people together to fight for justice. And I spoke from the subject, America's moral parenthesis. Equality is still possible, but we must first embrace the optimum human condition and then call everyone to embrace it. This comes from a chapter written in The Substance of Things Hoped For by the late Samuel Derrick Proctor. And in it, he argues that America's moral parenthesis refers to a temporary period in which the United States is seen to suspend, compromise, or bypass its foundational democratic values and ethical standards. The phrase is most frequently used to critique moments when political, economic, or military actions conflict with America's historical identity as a champion of human rights and global liberty. And in this moment, I had to reflect upon the Negro national anthem because of its consistency over time. And Reverend, when you think about the next album of our favorite pop star that's coming out, and we know all the words to it, and you've probably been at more events than I've ever been at in your capacity as president of a mainline American and international denomination of Christianity, the Disciples of Christ Church. This idea that you can still, in 2026, hear a Negro sing the song and scat through some of the verses when it's only 3 verses to memorize. It seems to me, Reverend Owens, we all ought to know the song by now because it's the one thing that consistently holds us together every single day. Madam President.
Oh, absolutely. I heard you say earlier that your dad paid you to learn those verses.
As a kid, I needed that $60.
Let me just say that our dads were both born in the same year. I'm blessed to still have my dad, and he's a retired African-American studies professor, as I've mentioned before. We had to read a book a week by or about Black people, or we didn't get half of our allowance. So
he wasn't wrong.
Yeah. They probably, I'm sure they met each other at some point, but the whole issue of us not knowing this anthem, I remember my grandfather was Baptist minister in my hometown of Terre Haute, Indiana, local president of the NAACP, worked actively in the 50s to desegregate public facilities. And when our young adult choir, they would, back in the days when choirs had a step, when they came into the church, their introduction, they would be at the rear of the sanctuary. And before they marched in, it was only when the young adult choir sang, and they sang Lift Every Voice. There was a woman who was a Sunday school teacher, Miss Vernon Brown, I'll never forget it. She would get up and walk outside, not just out of the sanctuary. She would go and stand outside of the church building. She thought this was heretical and too militant to be sung in church, even though the song appeals to God throughout, particularly in that last verse. So I remember as a child, this being perceived as just this radical thing, even in the Black community. It was never sung in elementary schools or high schools. I learned it in church. And I doubt that if my grandfather had not been the person he is, that I would have even heard it there. So in our community, it's taken us a minute to really embrace this song. And I'm proud to say within our denomination, we sing this, we choose it often just as a hymn to sing, even in predominantly white gatherings. Our Black disciples will sing it at their convocation, but we embrace this as just a hymn of the church, really. I will still point out, as you say, we fumble through the words. I'm always really, really disappointed when Black folks don't know every single verse. They can't get a
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. I know Terry is with us. I think we might have a small technical problem that we will resolve momentarily. But to her point, there is this moment in our history where we all sing the same song. Terry, welcome forward. I'm sorry we had a little technical.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I lost you there for a second.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think I have lived to see it being treated as this very radical thing, to it being embraced even by predominantly white audiences. And you notice that was it the Super Bowl when they sang the national anthem, and there was some resistance to Lift Every Voice also being sung. It's not a militant song. It claims the same promises for this nation, that everyone, these are the words that we say, the things that we say, we believe. And I think it's a song of hope. And that's what James Weldon Johnson and his brother intended. And I think not knowing it is it's a failure on our part, particularly in the Black community. There's no reason why we should know those 3 verses.
I'm thinking,
but I see it all the time that people don't know the song.
When we watch Charlton Heston and the 10 Commandments, for those who are more visual than they are willing to read the Bible and biblical scriptures that actually speak to the story to which the drama was created. Cecil B. DeMille begins at the beginning of the movie making an unusual appearance, saying that he tried his very best to stick to some of the oldest texts about the story as possible. But what we do know is that Charlton Heston was not from Egypt under any circumstances, so he couldn't have held to that part of it. And certainly Pharaoh comes from a long lineage of Black folk. So this idea, however, that Moses would celebrate in something called the Seder, which was a dinner with unleavened bread, with certain bitter herbs that reflected slavery, that, if you will, welcomed Elisha into the house with wine and with certain ceremonial attributes, that takes place every single year in Global Jewelry on the same day, at the same hour, at the same time, as a international reflection of their freedom and the role that God played in moving their people from Egypt into a so-called promised land. Now, as close as we're ever going to get to a Seder experience has to be somewhere around Thanksgiving, where the bitter herbs that we eat, let's call them collard greens, let's call them with a ham hock in it. That's what changes the nature of that root. Sweet potatoes and all that we eat that's unhealthy at Thanksgiving, the things that master's table would not dare have on their table was definitely on our table, and we're still eating it sometimes every single day, which is not healthy. Food from slavery. But the fact of the matter is, the reciting of our story is a kind of Seder experience, Madam President. It is part of the lived experience of God delivering us from a condition to a spirit of resilience, of power, and of hope. I just don't know why every parent in this country isn't making their child learn all 3 verses. And more importantly, why is it so hard? We know every verse to every word of Mary J. Blige. We know every rap of Tupac Shakur. We know every rap of Biggie Smalls, but we can't get the 3 Negro verses of our history right.
And our toddlers, my grandson, our 3-year-old grandson, spent the weekend with us. And of course, we're always enlightened about what 3-year-olds are watching on TV and all the little animated superheroes, Spidey and Friends, PJ Masks, Super Kitties, Blaze, who's this crime fighting, science teaching race car. But Zach knows the words to all these little theme songs as they come. He's 3 years old. He has a playlist, and for his little dance parties before he goes to bed, just to reinforce your point, at 3, he knows the words to the song and will ask me why I don't know these songs, right? So our kids have the ability, and just as I focus on sharing Bible stories with him and making sure he has books with people who look like him and stories of Black people, just as I did for my son, we really have to do this work as parents and as our schools and the administration is pushing back on the teaching of this history. People like Mr. Krim are so important, because we're having to take this work into our own hands. And really the churches, I think, are going to have to step in many cases, the Black church in particular, and do some of this work. But our kids absolutely have the mental capacity to teach it. We must just establish it as having value in our culture. My dad is a poet and literary critic, and he taught for a few years at Howard University in the early 80s. He was so excited to get the opportunity to teach at HBCU, but he said he was disappointed because he was fighting for the teaching of Black history and Black literature and Black art and culture in these predominantly white institutions. And when he got to an HBCU, he had to fight just as hard. And he said the young people don't know where they've come from. So the great opportunities that they had in that season, the early 80s, would have been, part of that first generation of young people who had greater options for school beyond just the HBCUs. But he titled the book Reconstructing Memory, because he said our younger generations are growing up without that history. And unless they understand who they have been or who we have been as a people, they will not be able to forge paths that honor the legacy from which they come, that honor the sacrifice, that honor the progress. And I think those of us who went to college in the kind of the affirmative, action times, we don't want our kids to talk about the struggle, just as former enslaved people never talked about the struggle quite often. They didn't want their kids to bear that burden. And you'll find that a lot of older folks from down south, they don't want. My mother-in-law grew up in a sharecropping family. She doesn't want to talk about that struggle. And I try to encourage her to talk about it, because her grandchildren need to understand the legacy that she comes from. They can't speak of it, just like war veterans often, it's so traumatic they can't speak of it. But, the Jewish people never forget, right? And those words, lest we forget, are in Lift Every Voice and Sing. And we have to be telling the story and be mindful of those history, because nobody else is going to shape their conscience. No one else is their consciousness. No one else is going to shape their own identity in a way that we can do so by ensuring that they know their history and be sure that they understand the narrative from our perspective and not the narrative as it's being handed to them by other forces within our society.
We got about a minute and a half before we come forward, and I know that I want to address with President and General Minister of the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ in the United States and Canada, Reverend Teresa Hord Owens' thoughts on the young man who was most recently funeralized, Nolan Wells, out of Mississippi. When we come forward, we're going to need some time for that. But I do want to remind those of our listeners who are listening that when we talk about being Christians, there are Christian traditions. There was Catholicism. They claim to be the longest standing denomination of Christians in the world, tracing their roots all the way back to St. Peter. And then, of course, the Protestant Reformation, when Martin Luther posted his 95 Theses on the church at Wittenberg, which really, those theses created the protest movement within Christianity. And within that movement, there are African American and other denominations of various forms of Christianity that exist as well. I say that to say, for example, one of the main symbols is that when you go to a Catholic church, you see Jesus on the cross. But in the Black church, if there's a cross there at all, Jesus ain't on it. Because we believe in the resurrection.
Yeah.
We believe in the hope and the opportunity of a God who believes in resilience. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, Reverend Terry Hord Owens on the Faith Not to Fall, her show, we're going to be talking about Brother Wells and what happened to Nolan Wells in Mississippi and what we can do and participate, and the church is calling to do something about it. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. 5 people are expected to recover after a shooting outside of Greater Love Tabernacle Church during a funeral Friday evening in Detroit.
First, it sounded like an argument, like they was arguing at first.
Black Mayor Mary Sheffield says threats had been made beforehand, so officers were already at the scene. An officer shot and wounded the suspected gunman, who was among those injured. Black Stockbridge, Georgia Mayor Jaden Williams is being investigated over the possible misuse of city funds. City council members voted Friday to limit his authority during the investigation. Williams is barred from private areas of city buildings, including his office, and must return city credit cards, fuel cards, and other city property. And police are investigating a home invasion at Saquon Barkley's Pennsylvania residence. Authorities say at least one of 2 suspects entered the home early Saturday while the Black Philadelphia's Eagle star and his family were inside. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers are in Philadelphia tonight after taking 2 out of 3 from the Yankees in New York City. They start a 3-game series against the Phillies. The Dodgers still have Major League Baseball's best record at 63-37. The 8 World Cup soccer matches at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood had an average attendance of 70,207. That's almost the average attendance for what the Rams and Chargers had for their 8 games at SoFi last season. The Chargers averaged 73,411. The Rams, 73,235. No more NBA games until October. The NBA Summer League in Vegas for rookies and free agents ended on Sunday. The Golden State Warriors, one of the teams pursuing LeBron, won the title. The football program at HBCU Southern University will get a $750,000 guarantee when they play LSU on September 9, 2028. Both schools are in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's do this. We're heading into one of the most important election seasons in a generation. And with so much on the line, your healthcare, your economy, your neighborhood, you deserve more than sound bites. You deserve the full story. KBLA Talk 1580 is your trusted voice for political coverage, commentary, and conversation. From local races to national headlines, we bring you the insight and perspective you need to make sense of it all and make your voice heard. Between now and November, a lot will happen. A lot will change. But one thing won't. KBLA Talk 1580 will be right here, keeping you informed, keeping you engaged, and keeping it real. KBLA Talk 1580, the place for politics.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580. your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive.
This November, you'll decide who leads California. So shouldn't you hear directly from the people asking for your vote? Join us for California Voices, a political town hall and ballot forum, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026. Meet candidates running for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and other major statewide and local offices, including mayor of Los Angeles, city attorney, and LA County sheriff. Get clear, nonpartisan breakdowns of the propositions on your November ballot, both sides, no spin. And ask your questions directly, in real conversation, face to face. California Voices is brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the Empowerment Congress, giving you the information you need before you vote. Mark your calendar, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026, California Voices. Follow KBLA 1580 for details and download the KBLA 1580 app. Your vote, your voice. Be there.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
Reverend Terry Hord Owens is the General Minister and President of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ in the United States and Canada, an author and advocate for the church living out its calling. She's the first person of color and second woman to lead the denomination. In fact, she leads more non-African Americans than she does African Americans, a unique perspective. Since her election in 2017, Reverend Hord Owens' ministry actively reflects the disciples' priority of being an anti-racist church, being a movement for wholeness, welcoming all to the Lord's table as God has welcomed us. In keeping with the disciples' historic commitment to Christian unity, she serves in leadership at the National Council of Churches as the treasurer of the governing board and a member of the World Council of Churches Central Committee. Madam President, welcome forward to the show.
Thanks. So good to be with you.
It's always a pleasure, Madam President. Let me ask you this question. At this hour, the family of Nolan Wells is in deep mourning. Reverend Sharpton has spoken. Ben Crump has spoken. The family has spoken. Nolan Wells has been laid to rest, to his eternal rest. Today, an offer was made for $100,000 from Reverend Sharpton and Attorney Crump for any information that proves valuable to the prosecution of any individuals who might have information or know information about what actually happened to Nolan Wells. Madam President, one, your thoughts about the Wells family at this hour, and also how do we reconcile on the July 4th that he lost his life with all of the other July 4ths that we have experienced in this nation and these difficult hours that in a real sense have really defined how we see independence as African Americans. Madam President.
Oh, well, of course, at first my thoughts and prayers have been with this family since we got the news. I'm the mother of a son. You're the father of a son. Any parent who has lost a child, I can't imagine that absolute heartache, and it crushes me every time I see these parents having to speak about it. The reality is that somebody knows something, right? Somebody knows something. And as I've heard Attorney Crump say over and over again in the press, we're just seeking truth. We're just simply seeking transparency. And if, in fact, you are his friend, then if you know something that happened, about what happened, you need to be willing to come forth. The fact that The friends aren't as forthcoming. He stayed behind to be with a young lady. Who is the young lady? What happened? The fact that people aren't speaking is just suspect to me, because if people are without implication in this matter, then they ought to be able to come forward and speak truth. It reminds us over and over again that Black lives just don't matter as much as white lives do. We're talking Ocean Springs, Mississippi. My husband's family, both his parents grew up as sharecroppers in Mississippi. My mother-in-law she only visited Mississippi while her parents were alive. My father-in-law wanted to maybe buy some land and they would go back and settle. When you say Mississippi, her face darkens. She becomes very agitated because she has seen the terror and she has seen the violence. My father-in-law was threatened to be put off the land that his father worked because he would not go to Jackson, Mississippi and work for the company that the white man owned. He slips out of town on the railroad car, as many of our ancestors who were in the South did, moves north to Chicago as part of the Great Migration, and then reached back to be sure his parents and his siblings could come with him. So Mississippi is historically just suspect, period. And we can talk about, we've come so far and people having, relationships. My son is married to a Latina woman. He has friends of all different races, backgrounds, sexual orientations. At the same time, I have had to make sure that he understands that the world is still not safe for him, as it might be for other people, not as safe for his son. His wife understands that. And so this idea that somehow we are being obsessed or overly obsessed about finding the truth flies in the face of the truth of our history in the United States. And we cannot let the United States and law enforcement go beyond this. So I applaud Reverend Sharpton, Colin Kaepernick, Tyler Perry, Ben Crump, all of the people who are coming alongside this family, as they have with so many others, just seeking truth. The regional minister in Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, a Black man, Reverend Dr. William Crowder, his son disappeared a week before his graduation at Howard back in May and was found dead. They still have no answers. And this is in Washington, D.C. So he's thinking of his son's death alongside all the other stories of what's happened to our children, our young men and our young women, and our society is not compelled to find justice for them. And I have no other answer to it. When you don't work hard, you don't show me that you care as much about my kids as you care about other kids. I'm concerned, and that's the heartbreaking story. What to the American Negro, as Frederick Douglass said, is your 4th of July? He's out there trying to celebrate. We're sending off firecrackers and we're having our barbecues. And the reality of being Black in America comes home in painful ways every time we have another episode where Black life is lost needlessly, and in this case, for unknown reasons. Why can't we get the answers?
Nolan Wells is now part of that story.
Yeah.
He is now part of the story of July 4th in the history of the United States of America. And so you might be asking, if you're on the 405, the 101, the 5, the 10, the 118, the 110, if you're on the Dan Ryan in Chicago, the Bishop Ford Freeway in Chicago, why should I care about Mississippi? Well, they have 2 United States senators. They have 4 members of Congress. And those 2 United States senators have the power to widen the 405, the 101, the 5, the 10, the 118, and the 110. They have 2 votes that matter to your health care, to your Social Security, to your Medicare and your Medicaid. They have 4 United States congressmen, including Benny Thompson, who's on our side on all of these issues, who can either support what we believe in, justice for Nolan Wells, or they can be against justice for Nolan Wells in Mississippi. To that extent, Every man's death diminishes me because I am part of mankind. I am, that's the old poem. I think it's either by
John
Douglas.
Donne.
Is it John Donne? I thought it was Douglas
John
Mallory.
Donne.
Yes, by John Donne. Because we're part of Mississippi. I am Mississippi, and Reverend Teresa Hord Owens is Mississippi. And by the way, Reverend Owens, we're long overdue for some street lights in Mississippi and the end of sundown towns from Mississippi all the way to Louisiana. I mean, it's just amazing that Black people still live in terror in many of these communities. Still at sundown.
Still. It's as long as my husband's grandparents were alive, we would make a trip to Mississippi every few years. And it wasn't until I actually saw Mississippi up close, but also listened to the stories of my in-laws and other relatives, that you realize the actual terror and violence that was traumatic in ways that our generation never had to deal with. So those stories need to be told. And it's United States is still not a safe place to be a Black person in many ways.
Our prayers at this hour are with the Nolan Wells family. We're in Our Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Terry Hord Owens on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Gas prices got you down. LADWP customers get a rebate of up to $4,000 when you buy a used electric or plug-in hybrid vehicle. Installing an EV charger at your home? Get a rebate for that too, up to $1,500. Visit ladwp.com/EV today and start saving. That's ladwp.com/EV.
The Sickle Cell Community Consortium Warrior Convention, sponsored in part by Agios and Pfizer, is July 22nd through 26th. Sickle cell education, entertainment, and family fun. Free hotel scholarships are available. Register now at sicklecellconvention.org.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40 and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580, your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at kbla1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The BLM Center for Black Power is a hub for Black activism in the city of Los Angeles, a standalone nonprofit affiliated with Black Lives Matter LA. The venue is home to live events, meetings, and organizing drives for Black-led community-based organizations. It is also the base of operations for Black Lives Matter LA. Built on what used to be a nuisance property owned by an arms dealer, the BLM Center for Black Power is in the heart of Leimert Park and has opened its doors to everything from youth organizers to toy drives to film screenings and community town hall meetings. To make a donation or make a request, please visit blmla.org. That's blmla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Onyx, I keep having stomach issues. Please make me a doctor's appointment.
Okay, are you suffering from diarrhea, bloating, gas, or oily stools? If so, you may want to ask your doctor if it could actually be a problem with your pancreas, called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI.
My pancreas? How is EPI treated?
A prescription medicine like Creon, pancrelipase, is used to treat people who can't digest food normally because their pancreas doesn't make enough enzymes. Creon is the #1 prescribed treatment for EPI.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you are allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon. You can learn more at 1-800-633-9110.
Before your appointment, visit creoninfo.com. That's CREON info.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special guest in this hour is our regular contributor on Mondays, The Faith Not to Fall, with Reverend Terry Hord Owens. She earned a master's degree at the University of Chicago Divinity School, where she was a Disciples Divinity House Scholar and recipient of the John Rind Award given to the top MDiv graduate at the Divinity School. Reverend Terry Hord Owens is a native of Terre Haute, Indiana, and a descendant of one of Indiana's oldest African-American free settlements. She earned her bachelor's degree in government with a minor in African-American studies from Harvard University. Reverend, welcome forward to the show.
Thank you, Jesse. Good to be with you.
Before I seek the answer to maybe two final questions, how can we support your work?
Well, you can follow me. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. Instagram is at @THordOwens. You can follow me, Facebook, I'm Terry Hord Owens. You can buy my book, Staying at the Table, which is available on all the various book platforms. And if you are interested in the ways in which churches can become active in the work of justice, the Disciples are certainly a church that's trying to do that. And I would probably say I have to continue to push in that direction, but you can go to disciples.org and learn a lot about us and learn a lot about where we are, find one of our congregations, learn about our Black Disciples congregations, but would appreciate people checking out the book. It's getting good reviews internally. I'm trying to get it beyond the Disciples audience. So.
Fantastic. We'll do everything we can to be supportive. And going forward, I'm going to make that reference every single time we have our show. Listen, Reverend, let me ask this question. There's a 800-pound gorilla in the room. And that is, for example, the NAACP is having its annual convention. The Rainbow Push Coalition has had its annual convention. The Urban League, I believe, is coming up. The National Action Network had its convention. I was there. Our oldest, strongest, biggest, and baddest organization has historically been the church, more specifically, the Black church.
Mm-hmm.
Question I have for you. There is a more challenging history of why these organizations grew out of the church to do this work.
Mm-hmm.
In the last segment, you talked about, and I found it particularly compelling and intriguing, about the woman who was upset about singing about Negro freedom in the church.
In the Black church, yeah, in the Black church.
Why does our movement have to disconnect itself, or why has it exited from mainline Christian thinking in order to do this justice work?
One of the great myths, I think, even is about Dr. King, is that, the Black church was 1,000% behind him, and they were not. The story that Clay Evans, when he came to Chicago, I've heard your father say that he joined fellowship in large part because Clay Evans received that work when other Black ministers in Chicago would not. So it's even though Dr. King was a minister, a theologian, and it was certainly the institution of the Black church, the music of the Black church, the women of the Black church who were organizing and making things happen. I think we forget that we weren't always in the game. The great majority of us were not always in the game. And the more we have, I think, progressed, we've become more concerned about regulating people's beliefs than we have embodying the love of God and the justice that Jesus calls us to do, to love God and to love neighbor. And that's at the heart of really what Black liberation theology is really about, is that, yes, it's possible to be Black and Christian. Jesus in Luke 4:18 says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He's called me to work for the release of the oppressed and to set the captive free and to do that particular work. Jesus says himself, this scripture is fulfilled in me. This is the work that I came to do. We have lots of scenarios where local Black pastors are more captive to local white politicians. That has happened in Chicago over the years. We've become more concerned with our own position within the institution than we have become with the good of the community that we say we're called to serve. And so if we have churches that are, continue to be apathetic and apolitical, I'm not sure what to say about that, because that's not the work of Jesus. The way of Jesus is to care for those in our society, to care for ourselves, to love ourselves enough to want better for ourselves. And that's true of any church. And we see younger people moving away, and it's actually not just even Black young people, but moving away from the idea of institutional church, because we're focused more on what happens within the four walls, and is your name on a membership list, and are you going to stay for coffee afterwards? And you're not, maybe you want to have a food pantry where you invite people once a week for a meal, but we're not in the streets advocating with our legislators for living wage, and we're not working for equal access to education and healthcare and those things that will build up our particular communities. So the more we think that leaving aside our particular Black concerns is somehow a mark of progress, the harder it is. I do a lot of work with William Barber. I'm going to be preaching next Monday night in front of Black Lives Matter Plaza as one of his Moral Monday preachers. And people are, they criticize him. Anybody who's just speaking the truth, the critique is always, you're just about your own thing. You want what you want. But if we would just come alongside people and join and make the initiative, we fight too much about who's in charge and whose name is on the flyer instead of coming together to do the work. And if we would do this work of caring about our community, younger people would say, and people who care about liberation would say, the church must really be about something. I speak with young people of all stripes all the time. They say these are the issues we care about, and they are proud when their church stands up for these issues. There are some Black churches, Baptist churches in particular, I will just name, where women are still not even allowed in the pulpit. Our historically Black denominations, the AME, Zion, CME, they've made more progress, but there are still places, Black places, where I would not be able to stand in a pulpit. People who are mystified at the fact that I have this particular role, because as of yet, a Black woman has not been called to have the counterpart role in our Black denominations. So if we're that detached from justice in our own communities, young people, we won't have a chance to tell them about Jesus, because they're like, what you're doing disrespects me, disrespects our community. We can't just be singing songs and telling stories. We have to be feeding people in the street, That's the evangelism that we need to do. And if young people see us being active in activism, they're going to want to hear. If I say, I'm doing this because Jesus said, they're going to want to maybe know a little bit more about Jesus when I'm not saying your skirt's too short or comb your hair or pull up your pants. That's not the message Jesus has for them. The more exclusive we are with who's welcome in church, the less people are going to be interested. And I'm really hopeful that my own ministry will be a bridge for those younger leaders to find place and come alongside. And that includes my own son. So
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Madam President, thank you for spending this Monday with us.
Thank you.
And thank you for jumpstarting our week. More on KBLA Talk 1580. Tenacious Tuesdays is tomorrow on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Looking forward to hearing from you then. For now, DL's up on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.